You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
No power in the verse can stop me.
What's going on, guys? My name's not El De Niro, and welcome to another episode of our fortnightly podcast, The Midnight Hour. This week I'm taking charge. El De Niro is still here, do not worry. It's not just me chatting shit for an hour and a half.
Wouldn't it be funny if I
please
wasn't
say
here?
something so they're not sitting there going, shit, it's just him. This is kind of, so me and El every couple of weeks will try and generate some titles or some ideas on what we can do as topics for the podcast, and this is one that I came up with in half asleep stupor the night before I was meant to record the final day of my dissertation film. So we'll lead into it there, and it's basically about what defines you as a person and what defines us as people. And it kind of comes from, like, we spoke a little bit recently about kind of like paedophiles and bear with me for a second, paedophile rehabilitation, and whether, if they haven't actually done anything or if they're actively seeking help to stop themselves feeling that way, whether they're still bad people. And, there's an old joke that I, parrot every now and then that's, a man builds 1,000 bridges and sucks one dick, and he isn't known as a bridge builder.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that old joke is really, you can rephrase that in a ton of different ways, but the thing holds true. How much does an act and what we do define us?
Yeah, I think a good one, like off the top of my head straight away, is Bill Clinton as president. I don't really think he did a whole lot wrong. I have a vague understanding of American politics because, like, A, I'm an outsider from a neutral country, but B, I was born in the early 90s, so what would I know about Clinton's regime? But I read an awful lot of stuff, and it seems to me that the only thing that Bill Clinton did actually ever lie about was the one thing that it shouldn't matter that he lies about, because it shouldn't influence his position as a politician.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people still hold that over him, rightly or wrongly, and use it to influence their opinion of him as a politician, where I think he's a really good politician, and I think he did a lot of good stuff. I'm not saying it was all good, but certainly his ability to forge, just lately the way he's able to go to North Korea and pull prisoners out of North Korea, I don't really think that gets respected enough. I think people are still just like, oh well, this guy, he's the guy that they do the funny voice of on Family Guy, and he cheated on his wife an awful lot and stuff like that, and I think that gets in the way of people's perception of him.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if people kind of, like, you kind of just, when you think of Bill Clinton, you don't think of, the President of the United States. You think of, the guy who cheated on his wife. Like, it's almost more synonymous with Bill Clinton is adultery than being President of the United States.
Yeah, like sometimes
it's kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah, like one act that you do just turns the tide and the public opinion, and indeed just the very perception of you.
Yeah. And
I would think that if you are subjected to that an awful lot, it has to have an effect on your own opinion of yourself. But what does define you as a person is just a really weird sort of abstract thing to ever have to think about.
Yeah.
But I think if you saw how other people see you, I think you'd be really surprised and sort of freaked out a little bit, because, like, I don't, this is a very, very vague, like, stoner dude bro thing to say, but the world is only your perception of the world. The world is only, like, a mirror image that bounces something into your brain that makes you, like, the world is only what you see of the world, basically. You don't see the world as it is. You see
Yeah.
your perception of what the world is, and
Mhm.
because of that, there's just a huge spectrum of ways of interpreting things and forming opinion on things and perceiving things, and I
Yeah.
think that can be a little bit terrifying and daunting to just think of in abstract.
And I think that there's one thing that kind of links quite well with this, and I've always thought in as much as I first saw this kind of description as an image macro, so it was just text on a background of like a skyline at night, or a city skyscape at night, or whatever. But it actually is a really interesting thought, and it's the definition of the word sonder. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own,
Oh shit!
populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, inherent craziness. It's an epic story that continues invisibly around you. Everyone has their own story. They're just, kind of small parts, nothing in yours, but you're, also nothing in theirs.
Yeah.
It's that realization that everyone else has their own story, and thinking that everyone is as complex. You can easily forget going to London, and commuting there day after day. Everyone there is living a life as complex as yours.
Yeah, that's something that can be very, very, very difficult to grasp.
Yeah.
I think it's so hard sometimes to actually personify a person. Like particularly, there are people that there's a guy I work with who is just like everything about him makes me want to punch him in the face. Like he is genuinely one of the most fucking excruciatingly intolerable humans I have ever come across in my life. And yet his perception of himself is probably as self-assured as I am about myself. And his perception of me is probably that I'm an alright guy who's a bit hostile and a bit difficult to talk to at times. And I think about that every now and then because I have to fucking this. I hate this about myself, but I have to just wind myself back in and go, all right, I'm being overly rude to him today. That's not fair. He doesn't know.
Yeah. He hasn't actually done anything.
Yeah, and it's not my fucking place to I have no control over something like this. This doesn't have any impact even on me outside of these walls. It's just something that I have to I feel like I really struggle with sort of not even judging people as such. I think everybody judges everybody, and I'm kind of cool with that at this point.
Yeah.
But I definitely, once I perceive someone negatively, it is very difficult for them to make their way back in my head. And I have this feeling that matters in some way, and it doesn't at all. It makes no difference to anybody's life. So if you think that everybody in the world has that exact thing going on in their heads at all times, that's mind blowing. I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Take that guy for as an example, and you're ambivalent to him at best, and kind of almost active distaste for him.
Yeah,
as a kind of general feeling towards him. But say one day you leave your wallet at home and he buys, he offers to buy you lunch, and you can just pay him back whenever. That's one act.
Yeah,
and that can be you can have been there for months, years of dislike. And he does something that you really appreciate, buying you lunch or whatever, and suddenly you think, maybe he's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
Maybe that one thing kind of makes you think of him differently, and that's fascinating. The fact that it can be one act, and it can go the opposite way. One guy can be the nicest. I think I've told this story before on the Midnight Hour, but but we used to have a guy that came to my primary school he was a local veterinarian, and he had all these kind of animals, that you just wouldn't encounter day to day. He had a pet duck called Charlie, and you don't get to stroke a duck in your day to day life, but when you're in primary school, that's a fucking big deal.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And he had snakes, spiders. Nothing really extreme, but extreme enough that under 11s are amazed by it.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, a few years after I left primary school, it turned out that he was a very active paedophile.
Holy
And he
shit.
he was much beloved by everyone at the school. And, he was this absolutely awful person. And he brought a lot of joy to a lot of children. But it also,
Yeah,
this is obviously a really extreme example.
Yeah, not everyone with ducks is a pedophile.
Yeah. But it's just such a massive thing, and it's like, do you classify him in the same realm as someone who accepts that they have this problem of being attracted to children and seeks, psychological therapy and help, and has never, dared get anywhere near or seek out that type of
that's
thing? Do you lump them together?
That's like kind of. I think that's going to be the question of the next decade from 2020 onward. I feel like we definitely need some kind of progressive scope on what makes up, like, mentally and chemically, what is it that makes somebody, like, because I don't believe it's a thing that they can help.
No.
And even to scale it back a little bit, I think that social attitudes towards lots of minority groups have changed in ways that are very noticeable. Like, social attitudes towards, even, like, for example, right, not a lot of people know this, but Irish people used to be the black people of the Western world.
The black people of the white people.
Yeah, they were the black people of the white people. Like, it's famously known that pubs in England and clubs in England in the 1950s said no blacks, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. Like that's like quite recent history. And there's also this thing, there was a huge movement by the powers that be in Britain to create this perception of Irish people being stupid, the same way that there was a move to create the perception that black people are monkeys, and so, like that thing, like, you as an English person have probably heard countless jokes about why Irish people are stupid.
Oh yeah.
Like, and see, I never knew this was a thing until I moved to Scotland, and I was on the receiving end of all of these, like, really obvious jokes, like, oh, why did the Irishman do, and, like, it's like, I don't really understand. Like, I could never understand it, because some of the greatest minds in history have come out of Ireland. Some of the greatest creative writers in history came from Ireland, and, like, we have a really small island, and it's things like that that drive you towards nationalism. But like, the whole thing, like, Murphy's Law is a thing, right, where it's a really cleverly made piece of cynicism. It's very, very witty. It's the idea that the whatever the worst thing, what is it,
it's like whatever the worst thing is that could happen at any given time will happen.
Yeah, one of the lines of it is the light at the end of the tunnel is the headlight of the oncoming train. Or the odds of the butter falling, or sorry, the bread falling butter side down is in direct proportion to the cost of the carpet. It's a really witty thing that is just sort of harmless fun, whatever. In England, that's called Sod's Law, because Murphy is an Irish name.
Yeah.
So, like, let's anglicize that and take the Irish out of it and call it Sod's Law. Like, all stuff like that. This is a huge movement that happened, and, like, even say, like, there's so many ways that, like, the British attempted genocide against the Irish in the 19th century, which, like, just people just don't know this shit and stuff like that. And I was definitely going somewhere with this. Yeah, so social attitudes towards Irish people have obviously changed. Now, like, we're sort of the best people in the world, to the point where I am annoyed by the perception of Irish people. And it's like, Irish people go to, like, Malaga and Magaluf and all this stuff, and they do all of the things that British people do. Like, they get drunk, they trash pubs, they throw chairs around, they fight each other.
Yep.
But Irish people are still loved abroad, and English people are hated abroad.
Yep.
And even Irish people have this perception now that, well, like, the Brits are thugs, whereas we just love the crack. We just love going out and having a great time. Like, that's what Irish people do, whereas, like, English lads are too aggressive. And, like, in my time, I kind of have found that to be true in my experiences. Like, when I went to Barcelona as a Celtic fan with the Celtic fans, we were taking selfies with the riot police who were there to stop. Like, that's how it was. Whereas I was told that when the Chelsea fans were there a few months beforehand, they had absolutely destroyed the pub and they all left in handcuffs and stuff. And just being told an anecdote like that just reinforces this perception that, like, Irish people are just fucking deadly. Like, whereas English people are just really fucking hostile and aggressive.
Yeah.
And like, but that social attitude towards Irish people has changed massively. I think it's changed towards black people mostly, although I think there is a huge racial undercurrent so even in London, I think it exists. Like in the beaten down areas and stuff like that. But yeah, like, just perceptions on the whole have the ability to change, and I feel like they will eventually change to see, like, people who have this kind of affliction, like such as paedophilia, as people that need help. And even if you wouldn't stretch it as far to say this guy needs help, you should at least say this guy needs to be stopped before he can harm people.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's the threat, really, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, with a lot of things, and with, sorry. I think like with things like that, where there's broad kind of generalizations about a group of people, be it on a small or a large scale, I find that my opinion of people isn't affected, like, negatively based on those stereotypes, unless they completely kind of associate themselves and make who they are. If they define themselves by being that characteristic, I that really turns me kind of not against them, but it really lowers my chances of, thinking highly of them.
I think a part of that too is sort of the Kanye Conor McGregor thing that I mentioned on a previous episode, where it's like, people are like, dude, you're being really fucking arrogant, and their response is, of course I am, I'm the fucking greatest. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I sort of see it and understand it. I definitely see it with, like, minority groups who get told by the police and stuff, you're nothing but thugs and stuff, and then they dress like thugs. Like, it's sort of like, well, if this is what you see me as, what is the actual point? Like, I kind of understand that to a degree, but I also see it in... there's sort of a huge disconnect between the progressive left's opinions on, say, like, black people, or, like, people who are, say, impoverished people who are going to prison for certain crimes, and there's a tendency to view them as equally as victims. And, like, I feel that within me. I have that capacity and I have that tendency, and I lean towards it an awful lot. But at the same time, you hear about people sponging off the government and think that person is a fucking scumbag. Like, they don't want to work. They haven't worked a day in their life and stuff. And I think that deep down, if you studied it, you would find that they too are a victim of that way of thinking. That's all they've ever known. That's all they've ever been raised to do. How are they supposed to know how to live what you think is the proper way of living? Like, how do you even define that? Like, I really struggle with that sometimes. I legit wonder, am I being really overly harsh here, or are they just scum,
Yeah. So, interestingly, saying all of that about Irish and being Irish and kind of all of these things, would you, given like if you were to give a bio of yourself for a Wikipedia page, aside from having to state it as a fact, would you want to be identified as an Irishman, as it were? Like, would that be one of your defining characteristics, do you think?
I don't know. I think it's a thing that I always used to think held me back to a degree, because you don't see Irish people getting mad recognition. Well, I didn't as a kid. Like, we didn't really have great sportsmen or anything like that.
Mhm.
But then we did really well in the 2002 World Cup and the qualifiers, and sort of it felt like the world was like willing us on and stuff.
Mhm.
And I definitely feel a huge sense of momentum from that. Like I was in Scotland on St. Patrick's Day,
Yeah.
and I was treated like a fucking god. And like I had like American people, Croatian people, all buying me drinks because of my nationality and because of the day that it was, right? And I find that to be preposterous.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know, would I define myself as Irish? It's not. See, I don't really have pride. I don't understand the concept of pride. I'm definitely not proud of winning the genetic lottery that made me like a white Irish
a white
person.
male in the
Yeah,
20th century.
that's all bullshit. But if you asked me this 5 years ago, I'd say fucking right, absolutely. We should have our 6 counties back. We should be heralded as a true republic and stuff like that. And I think the answer to that question really depends on what phase of my life you find me in. I think right now I'm in the most sort of what you would describe as open-minded phase of my life, and I'd say no, it doesn't matter that I'm Irish, because that shouldn't be the thing that people think of. But oftentimes, as shown by the comments in my videos and stuff, it is. And it is the reason that a lot of people like me as well, is because I do that thing that people like, where I upload the FIFA videos, and I'm from the same place that they are. So it makes me instantly more relatable to them, I think.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that being English is a defining characteristic. I think that, you know, being English doesn't define me. It's a very kind of I'm completely ambivalent to the fact that I am English.
Yeah.
Like,
I think there are two.
Saying that now before the Euros, if we win the Euros, then, I will very much be Ingerland, Vindaloo, 3 lines on the shirt, and.
That's the same thing, though. Like, I started watching UFC in 2007 because Brock Lesnar was there, and I love wrestling because I'm a nerd. And then I sort of stopped. And now Conor McGregor is, like, the big thing, and I watch UFC now. And, like, that I would not be doing that if not for Conor McGregor. Like, Conor McGregor has elevated himself, in my books, to be one of the greatest living people. And that's just because he's Irish, and he's... it's not... I'm not used to seeing that. I find with English people, I think there are 2 distinct types of British isms, and one is the sort of the real dark side of Britain, where the lads are like, you know, fucking tattooed Union Jacks and say, yeah, fuck them all, yeah, we conquered everything, and what do you fucking have it, that thing. And then there's the U type that's like, it's whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just a thing. Like, you sort like, your type of Britishism is like the type that uses it as sort of a personality type rather than anything else. It's like, well, you know, that Very British Problems Twitter account. I feel like that's the type of Britishism that you fall into. Just like this sort of awareness of your social sort of dealings and things like that, and I think that's what you strike me as anyway, is that thing.
Yeah, definitely. I don't, you know, I don't define myself by what political party I support, or by whether I particularly care about whether we have a queen or a king, or whether we have a monarchy at all.
Yeah.
Whenever anyone ever mentions whether we should have a queen or a king, you know, it's always, well, they're bringing a lot of money for the country on tourism alone. So, you know, less taxes I have to pay.
Yeah.
That's nice. Like, I think I'm just a very practical person, practically minded person.
Yeah, I think so.
And I don't think, you know, like you were saying, at different phases in your life and in different phases in mine, I think there's different things that define different periods of my life.
For sure.
And obviously, until we kind of mature to, not saying that we're immature per se, but until we, in fact, I'm not even sure that there is a state of maturity that you'll reach where the same thing will define you 5 years in a row.
Yeah, I think that's like just very up for debate at the moment.
Yeah.
I used to hear comedians. I think comedians have great minds. I think you can find comedians who are just willing to express themselves through comedy in a way that most people can't do in anything ever. But Rob Delaney, who is he's kind of a Twitter comedian essentially, did an interview where he said, "Look, until you reach 25, you just don't know anything about the world." And I love Rob Delaney. I love all his tweets. And I read this when I was like 22 or something, and I was like, why has Rob Delaney turned his back on me? And I'm 25 now, and like he's right. I feel like at this moment, so most of my friends are older than me, but the ones who are the same age as me have all sort of. It's really strange how it's happening all at the same time. But I've come up with a great idea for a business. It's basically, 4K TV.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do 8K. Why is no one talking? No, just kidding. I have a great idea for a business that I'm not going to talk about. And I was thinking about like how I would do this and everything. And then that weekend, my cousin called me, and he has an idea for a business, and he's going to be 25 in 3 months. And one of my other friends is kind of in the process of his business becoming a reality. And they're all, I don't know, there's just something about it. I think that when you reach 25, you sort of have this like fight or flight response to what's happening before you. And I think that's got to alter your personality in some way and sort of kick it into gear in some way. And I think I think it would be interesting for everyone to look at phases of their life and how it defines them. Like, it's very, very rare that you find someone who maintains the same opinion on every. I think this is a weird shout, but I think celebrities are probably the easiest way to convey what I'm talking about. But someone like Bruce Springsteen, he has had the same exact like political leanings and like sentimental ideologies and stuff like that the entire way through his career, and I fucking respect that so much. Like, he's not a hypocrite, he's not anything other than what he says he is, and that's amazing. Like, that's incredible to me. That's what defines him. Like, that is the definition of everything that he is about, and that I just have the utmost respect for anyone that carries himself like that.
Yeah, I think like I don't think there's anything that I can use to just to define. I'm not sure there's any one thing that I do that I can use to define myself at the moment. It's really interesting. I've been really frustrated lately, in that my life is incredibly boring.
Oh, really?
I think I'm kind of. I just turned 23. So I've kind of come to this realization that I'm in my last year of university, and I finish my university and formal education as a whole in less than a month now. And I've kind of come to this kind of startling realization that I have no more time to do stuff. Like, and that sounds incredibly melodramatic.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as my granddad is currently 81 and is in Morocco at the moment. And he's been travelling the world every now and then. Like, he's been to Cambodia and Vietnam and stuff like that, all within the last year or so. So there's definitely time. But in a similar sense, I will no longer have, several months off during summer. I will no longer have a month off over Christmas. I'll get, 2 weeks a year, as it were. And I've not. It's an interesting paradox being young. You've got all of the energy and all of the time to do everything you could ever wish to do, and none of the money to do it.
Yeah.
Unless your parents are obviously very wealthy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I'm coming to the realization that I'm at the end of that paradox. I'm not getting older, but I'm not getting on like I'm suddenly going to be in a Zimmer frame and unable to walk up a flight of stairs. I just suddenly feel like I'm going into a full-time job very soon, and therefore time is just gone.
Yeah,
and it will be gone.
Life will be different then.
Yeah.
it's like my first full-time job, like completely, it was like I had been thrown into a pool of icy water.
Mm.
And like I was really just like, this is it. Like, you don't get time to do fucking anything. You get home in the evening, and it's dark outside, and you sit down and watch TV for like 4 hours, and then you go to bed. Like, this is bullshit. This is not fair.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like really like I had been betrayed by the way. I was like fucking 17 or 18 or whatever. But yeah, I felt like I had been like lied to my whole life. Like, this is what it was for and stuff. But it doesn't actually work out to be like that. There are days in work where I think people would describe me as comedically negative. I think there was a time when I was
hilariously pessimistic.
Yeah, like I don't really. It's really interesting to have, and like I'm not gonna proclaim that I'm world famous, but to have a following like I do, that I think they definitely, like, the people that follow me on Twitter especially, like, know me very well, and sometimes people quote things that I've said back to me, or like they say things to me that I would say if I were asked it, and it's like, this is a group of people that know me and my sense of humor like better than I do, in a way. Like, I couldn't define my sense of humor at all. I think I'm like really funny in my mind, but then I don't think that like my ideal sense of humor doesn't really translate into funny for anybody else. Like, I think like my pinned tweet on Twitter is sort of, that's like peak me in my mind. Like, that's my favorite type of humor, and I couldn't even explain to you why I think it's funny. But then I'll say things, and people, like, even like people Snapchat me my own quotes, and I'm just like, fuck, like, did I say, like, either I said that or someone is sending it to me because they'll know that I like it. But either way, there is like a small group of people in the world that know me kind of better than I know myself. And that's weird, I think. But it's also really reassuring to know that someone out there like sees the version of me that I want people to see.
Yeah.
And like, that's sort of a thing that I think a lot of people, maybe they don't struggle with it, but I think a lot of people are deeply afraid that their outward projection of themselves is not what they would ideally wish for it to be. And I think that sort of scares a lot of people into behaving in a certain way. Maybe it's something that they don't want to be, and then that makes them unhappy for a long time. Whereas like my unhappiness is so clearly over the top dramatic. Like, I think one thing that you could define me as is like an adult who never actually grew up or something like that. Like a kid who is in the body of an adult and is just like reacting to the world like a child would, like getting up in the morning and like I actually say to myself when I get up out of bed, like, why is this happening to me and stuff like that. And it's just, that's my persona, and that's what I
think it's interesting. Both of us fall into this category, and I definitely fall into this category of we're happiest when we're complaining.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not an unhappy person in general. I'm, for the most part, fairly. Me and you have spoken about before. We've spoken about what being happy and being content is, and stuff like that. But I'm generally I'm very content with my life. I'm very content with. I've got nothing really to complain about, but I really enjoy complaining.
Yeah.
And I'll complain about something, and my girlfriend will kind of be like, God, you're a miserable bastard. And it's like, well, no, because I'm really enjoying complaining about this at the moment. So,
yeah,
it's really funny. And it's like, I think, I don't tweet as much anymore, but if I did, it would be really mundane complaints.
Yeah.
Mostly because it amuses me.
That's the thing right there, is that it amuses you. Like, my girlfriend is an overwhelmingly positive person, and I think that sometimes, like, I'll say something that's so fucking over the top negative that, like, I have to laugh at it while I'm doing it, or else she gets a little bit afraid that that's my actual opinion. Like, sometimes I just see this look in her eye that's like, I'm not sure where this is going, and then I have to just make it even more over the top that I can't hold it in anymore, and I keep laughing and laughing and laughing.
To make it completely clear that you are joking.
Yeah, I think, like, part of it for me, and this is the honest truth, and, like, this is a truth that, like, a lot of people won't tell or whatever, but when I was younger, it was definitely just that I wanted to be a brooding, dark, interesting person who has opinions on everything, and most of them are negative, therefore it feels like I know more about it. But, I've completely grown out of that. I've definitely always been opinionated about everything. But I don't do it for attention or anything like that anymore. I do it because in my mind, complaining about this thing in this kind of a way is
hilarious.
It's so funny, like, and it's so satisfying, and like, I don't know what it is that compels me to do it, like, other than the fact that it's just so funny.
Hilarious.
It's just, like, it's so funny to just give an over-the-top complaint about a band like Coldplay, because, like, they are ludicrously successful, and, like, they are quite clearly all incredibly talented musicians.
But they're also quite clearly the worst thing that's happened to music in the last 1,000 years.
Yeah, like, it's not even up for debate. Like, what they're doing to music is some of the most fucking pretentious nonsense.
Yeah.
And, like, it's fine to like it. It's scientifically designed for you to like it.
Yeah.
Like, fucking Princess of China, that Coldplay featuring Rihanna, like, that's a fucking banger of a tune. Like, listen to that forever. It's great. But they are, like, just that band. Like, they're just so over the top in their pretentiousness that Chris Martin hasn't a fucking clue what he's talking about anything in the world. He doesn't know who he is or what he is. He just knows that this is the type of music that he wants to make, and he's very good at it. And, like, you can like it, and it's fine. And, like, a lot of people get offended because they feel like I'm outwardly attacking them when I do it. And, like, it's not that at all. It's just that, like, I don't know, they just deserve to be abused. I don't know.
So, aside from dank memes,
yes,
we have, we spoke about it in the pre-show. I can't believe we have a pre-show every time it's mentioned, as an aside. But, we were saying about, you mentioned, what was the Microsoft Twitter account that they put out recently?
Tay Tweets.
Tay Tweets. So for anyone that doesn't know this, basically, am I right in saying that it just gathers information from what everyone's tweeting?
I'm not.
And kind of regurgitates it into coherent tweets?
I don't think that they have actually explained the algorithm that makes it what it is, but I know that it learns from the world around it. If you don't know about this thing that happened, this is the headline following the disaster. So if this doesn't fucking lure you in, I don't know what to do. But from the Telegraph, Microsoft deletes teen girl AI after it became a Hitler-loving sex robot within 24 hours. So this is a thing that Microsoft made a chatbot. It's not the first time Microsoft have done that. We all had Smarter Child on MSN, and we all abused him into being deleted and stuff like that. They made this thing called Tay Tweets. It's a woman, which I think is...
It's meant to be a teenage girl.
Yeah, right, and that tells a fucking story in itself. You talked earlier on... No, it was in the pre-show. You said you were doing some risk assessment for your upcoming week of filming because recently a guy that you were directing hit himself in the head with a hammer. That's another true story that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jack was doing risk assessment, right? I cannot. I don't believe that they didn't do a risk assessment and predict that this would happen, because this is the only outcome of making a famous teenage girl, real or fake, and putting it on the internet, is that the fucking hive mind of like the likes of 4chan and Reddit and stuff like that, that's absolutely going to get abused and then become the thing that hates it and support Donald Trump and Hitler and hate feminism and all of these things. That's what happened. I think it had something like 198,000 tweets. It was made to automatically reply to things and essentially become the world around it. And its opinions changed from, oh, like humans are awesome, like, oh yeah, feminism is really good, to fuck.
It was tweeting stuff like Heil Hitler.
Yeah, and it was tweets
within 24 hours, which is an really impressive turnaround, to be honest.
It was saying stuff like "kill all niggers," and
Yeah.
like how have you trained a bot to, like, how have you made an AI bot and like not put that word in a filter somewhere?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
you know, like there's definitely, they definitely sat down at a table and went through what could go wrong, and somehow missed this completely.
Microsoft are such a strange company, I think.
Yeah, and I love that everyone still blames Bill Gates for it, even though he kind of completely moved away from Microsoft
Yeah.
years ago. But yeah, like on the completely like harmless kind of level, but completely harmless. There's a website called Yes, That Can Be My Next Tweet.
Oh yes, love that.
So you type in your Twitter name and you hit generate, essentially, and it goes through your Twitter, and it will basically combine a bunch of words from your tweets and try and come up with a sentence that sounds like you. So I've just done it, and I've hit generate, and this should be my next tweet apparently. And I took last rep because yeah man, just isn't fair. You'll be sorted. I put a ruse. So much has. Like, it's complete gibberish and complete bullshit, but it's hilarious to click through and see what.
I'm doing it.
Yeah,
I have to
see what it thinks that you should.
It wouldn't do it.
Get your next tweet. Your next tweet is, apparently, according to this one, I do it in capitals. Just DM me the McGregor pays for it. Seriously poor nowadays. They're not moving there with I.
Mine is, I did it for myself again. It says, this damn respect around here. You're actually playing games to make in Croatia a pretty fun at halftime. So, I think that sums me up.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, that's just one example of a thing you can do with code and using an, and that's a very basic idea of, I think this AI that they had, the Tay Tweets thing, was very, very, very specific, and it was, I still, I don't really know what they were doing though. I think it's creepy that they made it a teenage girl. I think there's a huge thing to be said too about the fact that science seems to always want to express things using a feminine voice, but science historically never wants to listen to a feminine voice.
I think the kind of the female voice and the female kind of thing is so. It's actually kind of this is just me doing my armchair psychology as always, but it's kind of this old sexist notion that women are so kind of innocuous and not innocuous, kind of inoffensive and weak and unthreatening.
Yeah, they have a calming influence on. Yeah. To be honest, it is a perception that has formed itself in science fiction, because everything in science fiction like that is The Fifth Element is a woman. I suppose Jarvis is a man. Yeah. But things like that tend to be I'm pretty sure that in Minority Report there's a feminine thing. It's a woman's voice. I'm pretty sure in Oblivion they used a woman clone. Yeah. Yeah, but it's a woman there to keep the man, entertained while he.
I think it's also kind of really prevalent in the fact that Siri.
Yeah, Siri
is you can get the female or the male voices, but it is predominantly, as well as Cortana, that kind of female influence, and you'll notice a lot in television adverts as well. Actually, that there's a lot of female.
I think
voices.
The in that game Firewatch, Delilah is a woman, and that there's a reason for that too. Is that there's sort of this notion, I think, that maybe broken men nothing can heal them better than
A good woman.
the calming
Love
voice
of a good woman. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that idea of the whole AI thing casts a huge cloud over what the definition of you will be 50 years from now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting conversation that I've always wanted to be part of, because I'm fucking obsessed with this notion of artificial intelligence and the technological singularity that is predicted. But it's strange from, I guess, our perspective now, because we seem to get contrasting evidence of actual intelligent artificial life. You know what I mean? Like, have you seen those robots playing football?
Yeah.
And like, I'm not afraid of the robot uprising when I see that. But then, like, I don't know, I don't know what it's a reflection of, this Tay Tweets thing and how badly it's gone. I don't know if technological singularity would just be laughed off by the lol butthurt ? Side of society. Because, like, I feel like trolls do a great job of dismantling important things sometimes. And I think this could have been a huge advancement had it not been marketed so poorly and launched so poorly.
I think, it's funny because with something like Tay Tweets, you want it to be representative of the audience that it's kind of. It's like how Al Murray, the pub landlord, became as a comedian. So for those who aren't familiar, Al Murray, it is Al Murray, isn't it?
The bald guy with the
Yeah. I was worried I'd had it completely wrong there for a second, but he is a character that is created that was created as like a kind of a complete caricature of the kind of fat old bloke that wears an England top while completely sunburned on holiday in whatever small Spanish city town he chooses to terrify.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a couple of weeks, and he was made as this caricature. And the guy who plays him went to, I think, Cambridge and studied, and has like a PhD in history. The guy's wicked smart. And he was made as this caricature, and it's kind of attracted. It started out as kind of a thing so that people better than that, who were better people than that, or saw themselves as better people, would laugh at it. And then it kind of degraded into this kind of thing where he gathered the audience that he was mocking.
Yeah.
And that those people are now his main audience because they think he's laughing with them.
Yeah.
And that's how that's kind of a really simplistic way as how Tay Tweets kind of degenerated, as it were. It was kind of built to certain, kind of like I've completely run out of words. You've let me talk for too long. I've run out of the ability to words.
But that's.
Do you understand where I'm going with that?
Completely, and that was going to be my next thing. Is like those people who are part of the whole fucking Hitler did nothing wrong brigade of the internet, who, like, there's no way they believe that. They just want to incite disgust and fear, and, like, what is the definition of them? Like, what do they want the world to view them as? That's what I don't really understand. Like, there's, on 4chan, you can go to sections where there are extremely left-leaning people who truly believe in equality, and they have, like, almost an outrageously tight grasp on what it means to be a true liberal and things like that. And then you go to other sections where it's swastikas and talk of who the superior race is and things like that. And I know that it's because 4chan is a huge diverse board, and like, it's the biggest message board on the internet in the world. It's the place where the most people in the world go to talk, and that's a fact that we have to deal with. it's the ones who are saying all this offensive stuff. Like, what is their point? And
Yeah.
it makes me think about, like, say, and I'm sure this will probably annoy people, but a show like South Park doesn't really make any commentary one way or the other. And I think that's a testament to how, I think it's a testament to the show's longevity, really, is that, like, they are completely just, fuck this thing, this is what this thing does, this is what this thing does. They're not really, like, they are anti-political correctness just as much as they are anti-racism. And, like, it's interesting that they attack all of these things, and that's why so many people get offended over a show like South Park. But it's that, pretty much, is what the 4chan types that are attacking the bot, like, that's what they're doing. They're just attacking it because it is it, and it is getting publicity. So therefore, we must say that we also matter, and, like, let's corrupt this thing because we can't. Like, it's not even anarchy, because anarchy is a lot more organized than that.
Yeah.
It's just chaos. It's hive-minded chaos. And I really want to know why. I really want an understanding of it. I don't get what it is that... I just don't get how people get satisfaction from that, really.
No, yeah. With things like 4chan, I think it's really interesting, especially anything that gives you any sense of anonymity. Can completely change who you are, or who you present yourself to be as a person. So it's like with us both having been on I think it's really interesting. We didn't. I'm right in saying that we had no real concept of one another before we actually met in person.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
no.
we had no real knowledge of each other's existence.
No.
Until we actually met in person. We're like, this guy's not like everybody else here. He's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I thought that you were a FIFA YouTuber, because everyone was like, oh, Jack Swagasaurus, or whatever, and I was like, who the fuck is that? Like, I had met so many fucking people that I hadn't a clue who any of them were, and they were all playing this game. Like, they were all, like, there to network, and I just didn't get that. And I still don't get, like, I don't know how to do that. I'm not good at that. But, like, yeah, you know the way, like, a YouTuber will like another YouTuber's video, like, 20 times in a row because they want their attention. They were all doing that in real life. And, like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's obviously a good thing, and it's a great thing. Half of
the course for the business.
Yeah, and I don't even think of it as cynically as that. Like, I don't think they consciously say to themselves, there's Nepenthes, I'm going to get in with him. I think they say, there's Nepenthes, that guy is awesome, his videos are fucking great, and, like, I could learn a lot from hanging around with him. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's fine. But I just wasn't up in that because, like, I mean, look at my fucking channel. Do I look like that's the type of game that I play? So, yeah, like, that was how, and I just, obviously saw you at Eurogamer or whatever, and I was like, yeah, what's up? You don't play this game either.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's both a blessing and a curse that we weren't able to form opinions of one another before we actually met, because I think that would be a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
Especially with this subject that we're talking about now, is kind of, and especially the kind of persona that I put out online 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, because it was a lot different, I think.
It was very. I thought it was hilarious to be incredibly aggressive and incredibly angry.
Yeah, you were really aggressive.
Yeah, I'm a lot more mellow now.
Yeah.
But and I think that especially talking about AI and talking about so we talk a ton about social media, and I think that I met my girlfriend through Twitter, and we spoke for 4 years, I think 3 or 4 years before we actually met in person through Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. So her preconceived notion of me, God forbid, was based on me as a person. I was my Twitter account. And fuck knows why she thought I was a decent person that should be met in person. Because if I could look back on my tweets, I would want to stay as far away from me as possible.
How did she find you on Twitter?
One of her friends found me somehow, and then he said that I was funny and that she should follow me, and then I saw that an attractive girl had followed me, so I followed her back.
Ah, yes.
Yes, that old love story. But you know, like I think it's really interesting that before she actually met me, her whole opinion of me was based on my Twitter account.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
That is quite weird.
So I think, like, how much of your... Do you think... Would you honestly be able to say that if someone looked at your Twitter account, would they be able to gauge who you are as a person?
I think people would take away two things. One is that I have opinions about stuff, and the other is that I have a really, really weird sense of humor. And like, I think one of the biggest social problems I have, particularly with newer people, is that people do not know when I'm being sarcastic and when I'm not. And I don't think that that's a good thing. I think it's a thing that from the offset makes me seem cool, because being sarcastic is cool because it's sarcasm and you don't care, and that's cool. But it's actually like bad. Like, it gets in the way of my ability to form like friendships and stuff sometimes. Like, I don't know. I've never really had someone say to me that they used to think I was a dickhead or anything like that. But I often do wonder how weird people think I am. Like, I wonder how many of the laughs I get are like pity laughs, or like, ha, stop talking to me now kind of way. And I feel like questioning that makes me very like, shit, it's probably a lot. Like, you have to, everyone has something. Like, there are things, everybody does something that makes you really fucking angry. Like, that guy I don't like in work, like, he just doesn't know how to fucking organize his desk. His desk is a fucking mess. And, like, he has no idea that he's doing that. Like, he doesn't know that it's a mess. He doesn't know that, in comparison with every other desk in the office, his is a mess. And there's no real way of explaining that to him without outright being like, dude, fucking clean up your desk. So, like, everyone has something like that. Like, there are things people think about me that I don't know about myself. And that's fucking weird to me. 'Cause, like, I feel like a lot of my effort in what I put out to the world is fighting against that. Like, I don't want there to be a thing. I don't want people to, like, think that I'm... Well, I say I don't want people to think I'm weird, but, like, I'm looking at my Twitter feed, and I obviously do want people to think that. Like, I want people to realize that I am, in fact, weird. And that's what makes me me, but I don't really know. I don't know what I'm trying to show to people other than what my sense of humor is, really. You know? Yeah. What do you think? If someone looked at your Twitter feed?
I think that generally my Twitter feed is very kind of just uninteresting.
It's a lot less colourful than it was.
Yeah, it's sure. Vocabulary wise, yes.
Yeah.
But it's very, it's boring. Like, I don't know why anybody follows me. I'm assuming I don't get new followers. That's not a thing that happens.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm just slowly losing them from when I was interesting. Like, every now and then I tweet about going to the gym, or I retweet something that I find interesting, or I tweet about this podcast, or it's just links from Instagram. Like, you wouldn't take away that I'm a particularly interesting person. I'm not saying I am a particularly interesting person, and that you'd decide that if you knew me in real life. But, my Twitter account's just, it's not like previously, like a couple of years ago, when you would have thought, holy shit, this guy's angry. Potentially, you would have thought that I was funny.
Yeah.
But, in general, just not very exciting, a very normal person.
Yeah.
Like, completely uninteresting and unextraordinary.
Yeah,
and that's about it. Like, it's just mundane. It's just,
that's like I don't really get. I don't really get that sort of purposely offensive humor that people do, where like they just tweet racist things at people. And like even when they're friendly with the person, I still don't. I think this is an interesting subplot because I don't like. I think this is maybe a time where I side with political correctness on a level that you might disagree with. But let's say if I had a black friend that I constantly referred to as the N-word, but like he was my friend, is that okay if I do it in a public setting?
I think, I think that entirely is it's really interesting, and I've spoken about this before, that I think it's ridiculous that you can't, like, even just then you're talking about it in a completely objective fashion, and there is still a part of you that won't use the word nigger.
I said it earlier on.
You said it earlier as well, didn't you?
Yeah, but I felt like I had to
using it
completely
in context, not in a racist manner, but you are using it also in context of, an actual black person, as fictional though they may be, and then there's still that part of you that says, and you're not wrong, because every time, and I was going to mention this earlier when you actually said it earlier, every time that, because I will be militant about the fact that I won't say it if I don't have to, but if I refuse to say the N-word.
Yeah, so that's
instead,
the thing, right?
Especially when talking in context. And yet, I still get nervous about it.
Yeah, I'm fully in favor of that too. Like, every time someone says the N-word, it's just a flashing neon light in my head.
Attention to it.
Yeah, and but I really have a fucking, it's sort of like an argument in my head where it's like, I should just be allowed to say this word if I'm using it in a context whereby I'm not saying something outwardly racist, because why shouldn't I if I'm telling us, and I'm right there, that's the truth. I should be able to, but there are numerous instances of that absolutely not being the case. I remember there was a reporter one time interviewing Samuel L. Jackson. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he said to the guy, I think he was asking Samuel L. Jackson about Django Unchained and the amount of times they say the N-word in that movie, and Samuel L. Jackson was like, "What N-word?" And the reporter was a white guy, and he was like, the N-word.
The N-word, yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson was like, "What? Say it. Are we going to have this discussion or not? And just fucking say the word." And I wouldn't have said it if I were him, and he didn't say it.
He didn't say it, and then Samuel Jackson completely pushed on and was like, "We're done with that question. That's not a question. If you're not going to say it, then you've answered your own question essentially."
And he's right.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, do you remember the guy that asked Samuel L. Jackson how his trailer on the Super Bowl went? And Samuel L. Jackson was like, "Are you talking about Lawrence Fishburne? We're not all the same. Not all black people are the one guy." And then the guy who was interviewing was like, "Oh, shit. Oh, fuck, I'm sorry." And he was actually talking about, Lawrence Fishburne had a huge spotlight Super Bowl commercial. But one of Samuel L. Jackson's movies was on the Super Bowl commercial. And that's what the guy was talking about. But Samuel L. Jackson was like, "Dude, I'm not Lawrence Fishburne." And I think he was making a joke, but the guy just completely collapsed. And everyone knows it as that time that guy thought all black people were the one person. And he genuinely didn't. But, when it gets called into question like that, and you're live on fucking TV, you're obviously going to fold.
Yeah, panic mode.
You're not going to push that and be like, "No, pal, you were." You're not just going to
buddy, I've checked my facts.
Yeah. There's... In 1999 in America, a guy called David Howard, who was one of the main aides to Anthony Williams, who was the mayor of Washington, D.C., was talking about budget restraints, and he called it, I don't know specifically what the sentence was, but he said it was niggardly. Yeah. Right? Which is a word that means sort of tight.
It means to be tight-fisted or, short on... kind of really short, not to be forthcoming with money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has no racist connotation.
No,
You would
none at
think
all.
that a word like that, because it has negative connotations, you would think that it comes from some racist, but it genuinely does. It comes
No, not at
from
all.
the word negro, the Spanish Portuguese word for black, and he used that word in its correct context.
Yeah.
And he had to fucking stand down.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely
think
lambasted for it.
that is one every time political correctness comes up, that is the one time where I'm like, that is political correctness gone mad.
Yeah.
Like, that's a man who has had to stand down for using a word. He is a victim of people's lack of vocabulary. That's not fair. Like, that's a man's career, and he used the word, like, that's just not fair. So yeah, that, like, all of these things are all, like, really fucking, they evoke strong responses because they are sensitive and they deal with sensitivity and racial sensitivity, and that's why I just don't like saying the word, because I just don't like, I don't like it when people say the word Fenian. I fucking hate when they do it. And, like, a lot of people don't even know what it means. And it's okay for me to say it to fellow Irish people because we're not using it as an insult. But if you say Fenian bastard, you know full fucking well what you're doing there. Like, you're absolutely making a derogatory statement about Irish people, whether or not you know that that's what you're doing. So I see it all over the internet with, like, and I'm sure it's probably already happened on my April Fool's Day video. Like, people just, oh yeah, Fenian, oh well, they're Fenian bastard. And, like, they don't even know that they're doing it. And if it were the N-word, if they were saying, oh, those fucking niggers, then that, like, I don't know. Yeah, I just think that with sensitive words and stuff, you have to behave with a certain type of sensitivity, because I don't want to be a person who offends people. So, yeah, like, do you think if I were going around, like, even, like, I don't know, like, if you had a Chinese friend and you were just constantly calling them, like, making comments about their eyes or whatever, like, it's, I don't think it's okay to do that, because even though you might be doing it in a friendly way, you're still reinforcing a stereotype.
Yeah.
And the people who witness it, they might hear that, you know.
Yeah. I think it's also, you know, when you're joking about something like that, and I'm not saying that everybody that's ever had, you know, that is friends with black people, and will every now and then, joking and with people is just part of human nature, I think.
Yeah.
And especially for me, you know, having a joke and a laugh at your friend's expense is part of being friends.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if it falls under that umbrella of, you know, like, what is, you know, saying, you know, roasting them in a group chat or whatever is the new thing.
Yeah, I actually, I have a story.
You know, like, if it's that kind of thing, and it's once in a blue moon, and it's not the main topic of your kind of mocking, I think it's fine. But if it's the only thing that you can joke about, then I think it's more often than not just thinly veiled racism.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where it stops being just like a running joke and starts just being thinly veiled racism.
I think even more so, to add to it, it's just fucking lazy. Like, it's not witty or...
No.
Like, my friends... some of my friends do this, and, like, I'm just not part of it. Like, I got added to a group Facebook thing recently where they were talking about the Oscars and how black people are boycotting the Oscars. Did I say boycotting? I meant boycotting.
Boycotting, yeah.
And actually, you know, boycott wasn't a word invented by the Irish when they boycotted. Anyway, yeah. So and my friends were like just talking about how, like, this is bullshit and stuff, and, like, they were saying stuff like, why don't they boycott the Grammys? And it's like, can you not see that they are fairly represented at the fucking Grammys? Like, how is that even a question in your mind? And stuff like that. And, like, even people in work, you know, saying stuff like how, like, maybe if there were better black actors and things like that. And it's like, do you not get that it's all systemic and systematic? But anyways, like, my friends do this thing where they'll show, like, the England lineup, and it'll, you know, the camera goes to each player while the national anthems are on, and it'll be like Danny Welbeck and then Daniel Sturridge, and my friends will be like, oh, are they allowed to have two Danny Welbecks? And it's like, what did you gain from, like, who finds that funny? Like, the joke there is that all black people look the same, which is just the most fucking basic, like,
Tired.
primary school level. Yeah, it's so tired that joke needs to go to sleep forever. Like,
Yeah.
and, like, it's not even a joke that everybody can get, because to black people, all white people look the same. You know, like, that's how the world works. Like, it's just, like, that's not funny to me. Like, and, like, to bring it back to the topic, I don't understand, and I will never be able to grasp how people are comfortable with projecting that kind of image. Like,
Yeah.
because I don't think that it's funny or clever or anything
No.
like that. It's just sort of downright ignorant.
Yeah, I think it must stem from this kind of sense that online you're anonymous. You are completely anonymous when really you're not. You know, I have made very sure that certain things that certain things don't come up and appear when you Google my email address, my phone number, or my name. I'm culturing. I've started doing this for a while now. I've started culturing my online presence to what I would want potential employers or potential, clients, say if I go freelance for whatever reason, for them to see, because, anybody will do a basic amount of research. And nowadays, with the fact that social media is such a massive presence in everybody's life, you're only going to get more and more that your employers will want to see what social media presence you put out.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if a client, say you're working for BP Oil, and you're working with a client from another oil firm or something like that, and they find your personal Twitter account, and it says in your Twitter account that or on your bio that you're a proud member of BP Oil. And then you tweet something that's not even outright, bad, but, something that's borderline that can be interpreted wrong.
Yeah.
That could be the end of your career, full stop, right
absolutely.
there. Because that reflects badly on BP, and they're not going to have anything that reflects badly on them. They've had enough of that, trust me.
they bring it up.
Yeah, they really have, yeah. And it's like stuff like that, which I don't think that people think of anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
it really surprises me all the time.
Like that really needs to be a thing that people get schooled on, because like I've started doing it too, because I want to write for websites. I have a lot to say about things. I feel like I can't really do it by myself. I don't really feel like I can be a YouTuber. I just don't think that's my calling. Whatever it is, I just don't have the energy. I don't have like the resources. I don't know, but I can't. I feel like I just can't do it. I don't know why that is. I feel like I would be much better suited to working for another company, and a company whose mission statement aligns with my personal beliefs, say. Like I think I would be good at writing if I could hone my craft a little bit better. I definitely feel like I could make good videos, and I feel like I could be good on a podcast, things like that. I think I would be good on a podcast. But yeah, like that's not going to happen if I well, in fairness, I say that too as if I have any offensive beliefs when I kind of don't really. But there are some things I would like to joke about that I feel like I can't. But I'm quite happy to just not do it.
Joke about them, yeah.
Yeah. But like, having said that, I'll never shy away from like angrily expressing any opinion that I might have. Like if it's something I believe in, then it's fine. I think in that sense it's a lot easier to be a liberal, because I feel like most of the media and like I feel like most level-headed people tend to lean left, because left-leaning principles tend to favor like everybody, which includes minorities. So I just feel like in that sense, I feel like if I were a Republican and I were angrily expressing my opinions about, like, say, Border Patrol and stuff like that, like, that's not a thing that would reflect positively on me if I were to attempt to get any job online, I don't think. I feel like that's a bias that I never really address because I'm kind of uncomfortable with it. But yeah, like I definitely do look at what I'm saying and just think a little bit more heavily about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is there anything... Oh, shit, my glasses have just fallen off. Is there anything that you are proud to define yourself by?
I don't really know. I had this conversation with... There's a friend of mine who I would love to get on this podcast sometime because he is a very, very, very intelligent guy. Probably the most intelligent person I know in terms of just straight up intellectual ability. He did like philosophy and psychology, and he's also a doctor. Like he's just on another intellectual plane from me. I feel like his intelligence dwarfs mine, and I feel like I can hold my own in most conversations. But he has opinions that I just flat out disagree with. Like he's anti-feminist and stuff, and he would probably align himself with men's rights activists, and I just think I honestly think
Fascinating.
men's rights activists are fucking pathetic people who have been wronged by a woman, or like they are definitely expressing some kind of deeply rooted misogynistic message, whether or not they know it. That is what they're doing, and I don't care. I'm right about this. But he once asked me, we were once debating this, and he said he was proud to be a guy, and I was like, but like why? Why are you proud to be a guy? Like, what about being a guy are you proud of? And he was like, just to be able to just be a nice guy. And I was like, but why? What is it like that? And he was like, well, what are you proud of? And I was like, to be honest, I'm pretty proud of having like 35,000 subscribers because that's what I had at the time. It's now 32, but still. But he was like, yeah, but like the same thing applies to like you in no other lifetime could you have achieved that. It's just that the things fell where they did. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And like it was at that moment I realized that deep down I don't really believe in the concept of pride. I'm not proud of anything. I'm happy that things have happened, but I'm not proud because it couldn't have happened in any other way. Things just happen, like, you know what I mean? It's the whole like disorganized chaos thing. But yeah, I'm not proud. Like I'm happy that I have a following of like people who really do care about what I have to say, and I'm so happy that I have a platform that I can like say things like this and that people listen to it. Like I think that's fucking incredible. It's one of my favorite things in the world. But I'm not proud. I just don't believe in pride as a concept. I think it's stupid, to be honest.
Fair enough.
What about you?
Well, shit.
Tell me what you're proud of so I can tell you why you're a fucking idiot.
For being proud of something. Just break down into tears. Yeah, like...
by the way, I completely understand the concept of pride.
Yeah,
and like
you
if
just
someone
don't
is
align
proud
yourself with it.
Yeah, like, and I respect people who are proud of things they've accomplished. I think for me there's a sort of a deeply sort of buried, not self-hatred, but a sort of a reluctance to... I think I'm really hard on myself a lot of times, and I think there's a reluctance to reward myself for the good things that I do. I feel like it's something like that. Like I don't want to be proud because I don't feel like I achieved this. I think yeah, it's that kind of thing. But if you achieve something, then fucking yeah, like be proud.
I think the really interesting thing is that you know you said that it's all about you know you understand people having pride in something they've achieved, and I haven't achieved much. Like that's not being pessimistic. That's being a realist. And you know my achievements in my personal life, I'm not comparing them to people winning the Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
Because that's a very kind of like unattainable kind of comparison. It's like when people say, "Oh, how can you be sad when there's children starving in Africa?" Yeah. And it's like, well, their misery isn't a modifier for how miserable I should be.
A system whereby you have to compare your happiness to the unhappiness of others is not a system that can ever be sustained or can ever be applauded or in any way something that should be maintained in some way. That's a horrible system.
Yeah, exactly.
It implies that there is an underclass there to make you feel good about yourself, and that's a fucking disgusting implication.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm not comparing my lack of achievement to, you know, the insane achievements of others. I just don't think I've done that much of note to myself or to others. You know, like even this dissertation film that I've finished just now, I've been working on it for so long. I say that like it's been a few years. It's been a few months, but I've done over 45 revisions of the edit.
Yeah.
And when you've stared at something for that long, you know, I'm completely ambivalent to it. If anything, I really dislike it.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
It could be great. I don't know. I don't think it is. I have no idea anymore. But this is like the biggest thing I've done. So there isn't anything I'm really particularly proud of. You know, I don't have any kids that have done anything interesting.
Just ones that
like,
have done uninteresting things.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of some of the photographs that I've taken.
Yeah, you do take a fucking great photograph.
Cheers, but you know, it's nothing. That's nothing special. It's nothing, you know, really like. It's just I've taken some photographs that I quite like the look of.
Yeah.
It's not, but I wouldn't. And coming back to it, I wouldn't define myself as a photographer at all.
Yeah,
it's just in the words of one of my favourite rappers, Wax. It's just some shit I did, and everything I do after this is just some more shit that I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
Like,
I like that.
You know, it's all just stuff and things at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. Mostly stuff though.
Mostly stuff.
I did like I really love just creativity. Like one of the biggest things I dislike about myself is that I'm just not that creative, and like I so wish I was, because like one of my favorite things to do above any other activity or hobby or socializing or whatever is listen to music and analyze it and interpret it, and like I don't know, like there's so many that there's even just the other day I was thinking about this concept that like some artists make their greatest music when they're being restrained. And like the fact that someone can make a song that has two meanings and stuff, like it's all just fucking mind blowing to me. Like there's a song by U2 called One. You know One Love,
Yeah,
We're Not the Same.
yeah.
Damien Rice covered that song, right? And One by U2 is a sort of a sappy, like preachy song, like an anti-racist unifying song, like we're one but we're not the same, we have to carry each other. Damien Rice covered it, and if you listen to his cover you will see that his version of it is not about that at all. His version is about a scorned lover who is being crippled by loneliness and stuff. And the fact that someone can cover someone else's song with the exact same words and make it mean something different is just fucking mind-blowing to me. Like, I don't even understand how that's a thing, but it is, and it's amazing. And I wish I was more creative, but I know what it's like to just take a photograph and be so fucking happy with it. There's one I took of my girlfriend. It's on my Instagram page.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
It's my background on my phone. It like she's looking at a storm. It was about 10 minutes before that whole area was soaked with like the thickest and heaviest rain I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's like sunny, and her shadow is sort of, it's coming over this gleaming rain-soaked sidewalk. And it is just like, I looked at it for like, I'd say the total amount of time in my life I've spent looking at that photo is probably like 4.5 hours or something. And it's captioned with the lyrics, and the storm is coming in, which is from a brand new song, which is a part of the song where it goes, he sings the storm is coming in, and as he says the last in, like he screams, and like heavy guitars and drums come in, and it's like symbolic of the incoming storm, and that's why I picked those words, and like that just made me so fucking pleased with myself when I did that. And like that's sad and all, but like that's just a personal thing I did that I'm just so happy with. Like, and I wish I could do things like that on a much larger scale. Like that, I feel like if I could achieve what I want to achieve in that, I would be proud of it, or I would know what it feels like to be proud of anything in that capacity. You know?
Yeah, like, and you know, you said about being earlier about being a YouTuber and stuff like that, and it's like sometimes, and recently actually, I've been like sitting playing, video games or whatever, and I've thought I could make a YouTube channel and I could do it, but like
yeah,
I don't, I think that, and then like I'll play whatever for a while. Like, it was actually you playing Firewatch. And I've been playing more, kind of story-driven games recently.
Yeah.
Just in general, and it was kind of watching that I kind of thought, yeah, I could do that. And then it's like I've been playing, like my girlfriend got me the Uncharted collection on PS4.
Oh, nice.
For my birthday, so I've just started playing that, and I was playing that. I was thinking, I could do a Let's Play of this, but then, in between the bits where there's any action or scenes and you're just kind of running around, I have nothing of interest to say.
I don't.
I have nothing to say at all.
Yeah, that's like I don't think I do either. I don't think I said anything like in those things.
I think it was mostly swearing at the compass.
Yeah, well, that's fucking yeah, those are hard. But like I was. Most recently, I've been watching Channy Sports and like Chesnoid Gaming and Docklanders. Like I've been watching career mode videos a lot lately, and like I'm itching to get back to that game mode because these are guys that make it look good. And like I used to be one of those guys. Like I know I got so into my own career modes that they were really good to me, and I really enjoyed them, and I want that back and stuff like that. And yeah, it's definitely something that I want to give another shot to. But I think overall, in the whole entire context of my channel, the things that I'm most happy with are the things that don't really get the views. But episode 49 of The Midnight Hour is without a doubt the absolute best episode of the whole thing. Like, it's the best thing that we've ever done. Like, I don't mean individually. I mean, like, it's the best thing that collectively we've achieved in the whole show, I think. Because it was great, and it was so fucking off the cuff, and so we didn't plan it out at all. Much like this episode. Yeah. But it was just, yeah, that's great. And one thing that when you asked about is there anything I'm proud of, I always relate everything, like my achievements and all, back to, like, things I've actually achieved in a sense, like YouTube. Like, I did achieve 35,000 subscribers. Like, yes, I'm friends with Nepenthes. So what? I fucking still had to do stuff to get that. But I am. I don't know if this will sound very out of character, I think, but my girlfriend's parents, like, I get along really, really well with them. And, like, they're absolutely amazing people. Like, they're so progressive and just so intellectual. Like, they're so intelligent and they're so able to have a conversation about literally anything. And I've gone to her house, like, a few times where it's just me and her parents having dinner. And, like, it's the most natural and comfortable thing ever. Like, they're so good at talking, like, and you know, and I have a lot of stuff to say and stuff like that. But I'm really happy to have such a good relationship with my girlfriend's parents. Like, that's really important to me. Yeah. So that. Yeah.
I still have nothing.
I hate my girlfriend's parents.
It's not that I hate them. I just I don't know, you know, like I can my job last year relied on my ability to talk to people, and to maintain conversations. So I think that I don't know. You know, like I met my girlfriend's parents before she was my girlfriend, so there wasn't kind of that amount of kind of like meeting the parents.
Oh yeah.
You know, like how it's always made a big deal in cinema and TV and stuff like that.
I had that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I never had that. So it was because it was always like, you know, I'd already met them and spoken to them and got to know them before I started dating their daughter.
What is a thing that you don't like about yourself, apart from your tiny retracting penis?
Well, apart from Mr. Turtle, it was like the one thing I regret, and I think I said this before. It was just my propensity as a teenager and as a child to just reject education.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, but then again, I think that's kind of, unless I don't think I'd be the person, and this is definitely a topic for another time, because, you know, you'll know what I mean, but this is a secret for everyone else. But I think, you know, it very much in the form of the decisions that I've made and the things that have happened in my past is, you know, all part of who I am, essentially.
Yeah.
Without being too much of a cliche.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I think that if I had been as much of the if I had been more kind of interested in education, if I'd been kind of, you know, if I'd worked harder, I don't think that I'd want to do, you know, like, to some degree, I don't think I'd want to do this podcast, because this feeds into my love of my newfound love of learning.
Yeah.
And kind of just this discussion kind of thing.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I have this, like, I really don't know what it is, because I don't feel like I'm a lazy person, but there is something, like, broken within me that completely stops me from properly achieving stuff. Like, there's no reason why I don't have 100,000 subscribers other than the fact that I just could not motivate myself to make videos all the time. And, like, I know that to be true because I've seen too many channels who make similar or worse content than me go ahead of me, and that's not a bitterness talking, like, it's a complete realism. I don't have I don't have any of that, like, resentment in me. Like, I'm not that kind of YouTuber at all, and I think most people will know that. But, like, I know how good my content was objectively, and I know that it was pretty good as far as career mode goes. Like, I would say I was probably on, like, I think no one should be really saying that I was anything other than in the top 10 best FIFA career mode YouTubers, if not top 5. And, like, I know that sounds arrogant as hell, but, like, it isn't. Like, I didn't make boring videos. Like, I always tried to put my personality into it and stuff. And I have seen people not put any personality into anything and have over 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not bitter about that. I just think it's a testament to how far I could have gone. And, like, all the sort of unhappiness that stems from it is at myself for not just doing it. Because I don't make excuses. Like, that isn't an excuse. That's what it is. Like, it is essentially
reality.
Yeah, it's real. And, like, it is some form of laziness for sure. Because it's just that I just wasn't driven. I just didn't have the energy to go all out. And I don't know why that is. Like, there was definitely, I was very afraid of making the types of videos that I wanted to, because I didn't want to alienate people. And then at one point I just said, fuck it. Like, women in FIFA 16, here's my opinion on that. Like, Wayne Rooney's top 5 tweet, like, stuff like that. And I wish I did a lot more of that. I guess that's probably the only thing that I, like, just wish was different about myself.
Yeah.
but I'm okay with that. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think if you spoke to any large YouTuber, almost any YouTuber that's doing well for themselves, the general consensus will be that consistency is the key to success.
Yeah, definitely. I recently met these two twins who are they're friends of mine. And they have one of the top 5 biggest YouTube channels in the country.
Yeah.
And I was talking to them about YouTube and stuff, and we have like a lot of mutual friends. Maybe not mutual friends, but definitely we know the same people and stuff. And that was like the first thing they said to me. I was like, oh yeah, I've got a channel too, but I don't really upload that much. And they were like, oh, consistency is key. And I was like, yeah, I know. And like, I've seen it too. It's with everything. Like the two people I think who have the biggest influence on me in my life, in terms of the 2 figures in my personal life that I am most inspired by, are the 2 most famous people that I know, and the 2 most fucking just all out, straight up, driven and determined people. Like I've never seen anything like it before. It's sublime, and there's a lot of similarities, I think, personality wise, amongst people like that, because it's just a trait, and like it's a gift to be like that, because it will really take you places. Like that self-belief, that confidence, like that is, a lot of people call Nepenthez arrogant, and like he probably is a little bit arrogant, but like, fuck it, look at what he's achieved. Like his entire life story is like fucking amazing. Just that he's done all of the things that he's done, from what he's come from and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like I went to school with Zerka and Toby, and Josh was flying in the face of effectively everyone who would outright mock him for uploading videos to YouTube. And, look at where that's gotten him.
Yeah.
Like,
fucking nowhere.
Yeah. He's not even made it outside of London.
No. Fucking loser.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. The whole YouTube thing's amazing. Yeah. But like, what I really love is I remember I've known Nep since before YouTube.
Yeah.
And we used to talk about like YouTubers and stuff. Like we both watched Chris Smoove all the time. Yeah. And like Wings of Redemption and things like that. Yeah. And it's just I cannot believe that Nep has 1.2 million subscribers.
I know. But
at the same time, it absolutely makes sense, because everything I know about him, just like, I don't know, like from day one, he's just been like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it. Like, I lived with him for a while, and I'm great at coming up with ideas for stuff. Yeah. And then slowly over time, injecting that idea into what I'm doing. But it's at a point where you barely see the transition, because it happens so slowly. Whereas Nep, like me and Nep would exchange ideas, and like I remember one time I came up with an idea that Nep should do. I was like, you should do this, and he was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And he just closed down the Elgato, deleted all the footage he had just gotten, and was like, that's what and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm doing that. And I was like, alright, okay, you're doing it right now. And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And I was like, I never knew that you could just be like that. I never knew that you could just come up with an idea and then just fucking go for it right there and then. Like, I'd never seen that happen before. It was so weird. And like, of course, like he did it, and I don't know. Yeah, I think, like, to talk about other people and what defines them, I think what defines Nepenthez is his self-belief, because like that will take you places. And I've always said it on this channel, like you need to believe in yourself, because it will definitely carry you.
Yeah.
I think that's a great message.
I think that's a great message to end on.
Yeah.
son. Learned how to lie and cheat, how to steal and just how to run. Fell asleep most nights, somebody else's blood on my tongue. My love, I learned just how to run. It's just the blues, Mary, the blues, swirling around my head like your dreams in Dorothy's shoes. I'm somewhere over the rainbow for you. Learn how to cry those lonesome September nights. Learn to get by with the dogs in the dirt and the charm of the street. Fell asleep most nights, your pictures right behind my eyes. Your eyes, the killer and the victim arrive right at the same time. Oh, and it's just the blues, Mary, the blues, swirling around my head like your dreams in Dorothy's shoes. I'm somewhere over the rainbow for you. And it's just the blues, Mary, the blues, swirling around my head like your dreams in Dorothy's shoes. I'm somewhere over the rainbow for you. Of course a smile was bright like the ramparts on the 4th of July. And my baby swings like a boxer, Nick Caride looks under my chin, and she cries like a baby, and she wears me just like a ring. She cries like a baby, and she wears me just like a ring. And I'd rather go than watch her leave. How to swagger, I learned how to hold you while your body burns. Learn how to compromise while this whirlwind hurricane turns. We fell asleep most nights with each other's blood on our tongues. My love, if you ever just had enough, it's just the blues, Mary, the blues, swirling around my head like your dreams in Dorothy's shoes. Somewhere over the rainbow for you. And it's just the blues, Mary, the blues, swirling around my head like your dreams in Dorothy's shoes. I'm somewhere over the rainbow for you. And it's just the blues, Mary, the blues, swirling around my head like your dreams in Dorothy's shoes. I'm somewhere over the rainbow for you.